The only way you can take CBS Sports Radio 1140 with you is with the radio.com app. Download it today and listen to us anytime, anywhere. We've got your Raiders covered.
Knock on wood if you're with me.
It's Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas. Yes, a quiet Las Vegas. There's no question. Things have changed with the current crisis in our country around COVID-19. But, you know, the one thing that does not change is the fact that we are here Sundays from 8 to 10. And at a time when there's absolutely no sports going on as far as live sports to watch, there's still plenty to talk about. So we're going to do that here again on Silver and Black Today. Of course, check out our website, silverandblacktoday.com. We are covering all things Raiders. Of course, breaking news, if you didn't hear at the top of the hour, the collective bargaining agreement for the NFL has passed barely, which shocks me. We'll talk about that in a minute, that it barely passed. Or excuse me, I shouldn't say barely passed. It was close. And I'll read for you a statement from NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. We are pleased that the players have voted to ratify the proposed new CBA, which will provide substantial benefits to all current and retired players, increase jobs, ensure continued progress on player safety, and give our fans more and better football. We appreciate the tireless efforts of the Management Council, blah, 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 NFLPA leadership, both of them who devoted nearly a year to detailed good faith negotiations to reach this comprehensive, transformative agreement. So there you have it. You have some labor peace for the next 10 years in the NFL. And I just want to say, too, that we're going to get into that. But from all of us here at Silver and Black Today and at Entercom CBS Sports Radio, be safe out there and watch out for one another. And do me a big favor. This is one thing I want to get at the top of the show. If you know anybody who's elderly, okay, older, it doesn't matter if they're family, neighbor, whoever, do me a favor. They probably, many of them live alone or they rely on others. Make sure to keep in contact with them, share the latest information with them, make sure they have supplies, etc. Let's make sure that Raider Nation takes care of the most vulnerable out there in our midst, and let's show the world how America takes care of its own. But the NFL carries on, and despite some car trouble this morning, another person carrying on, and he'll carry on much more when we get to Kelly's Corner later in the show. But that, of course, is my co-host today, Kelly Kreiner. Chaz Osborne is out today. And with the travel ban, Kelly, he's no longer the international man of mystery because there's a international travel ban. So he's now the domestic man of leisure.
The domestic man of leisure?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
And that came from our good friend, producer, engineer, Mark Bonilla, who had that. Or was that you, Trent? It wasn't you. Okay, no, it was Mark. So
just a good
Kelly,
thing he got back in the country while he could.
I know. Yeah. So it's crazy, man. But the NFL moves on, and I'm not surprised by that at all because, first of all, we need something to talk about. I'm not talking about sports radio. I'm talking about just in general. We need things to be able to discuss as a society, but also the NFL church. Here's the thing. The NFL, the new year, they've not made any indication that things are not going to start tomorrow with the start of the new year. Well, free agency tomorrow, legal tampering, which is funny that they call something tampering when it's legal. But then the new year starting on Wednesday as well. So, Kelly, you're not surprised by this, are you?
No, I'm surprised it was as close as it was. I was expecting it to be a little wider of a margin. I mean, it's basically breaking down to 60 votes out of the 2,000 people that voted. I figured by going after the lower paid players, getting towards that, getting the bulk of people more money, it would have been a little bigger of a vote. But yeah, man, that's a lot closer than I thought it was going to be.
No, and what I don't understand, and we're gonna. By the way, I guess I should highlight the show today. Coming up, bottom of the hour.
Yeah, nobody's listening.
So they're all listening. Now they're stuck. Nobody wants to leave their house unless they're hoarding toilet paper and pasta. Shame on you. But coming up on the show, a true Raiders fan favorite and one of the best Raiders to ever play, especially on the offensive line. Steve Wisniewski is going to be with us. We talked to him. He's going to talk to us about the CBA, what he thought of it, which is interesting, getting a former player's perspective. And he was obviously a marquee player. He was not one of the rank and file. His older brother was earlier in his career when he was younger. And then, of course, his nephew, Stephon, played for the Chiefs, won a Super Bowl this year. But anyway, he's going to be with us. He's going to talk about that as well as the Raiders moving to Las Vegas. Also coming up at the top of the hour, at 9 o'clock hour, Austin Gayle from Pro Football Focus would join us. We're going to talk about Raiders free agent opportunities to look at. Also, what they might do in the draft. Austin is the numbers guy, analytics, of course, Pro Football Focus at the crux of that. We're going to talk to him about that. And then Moe Moton, our senior NFL columnist at silverandblacktoday.com and a contributor here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. He will be with us. We're going to talk about, he wrote this week, Kelly, about the Raiders improving their linebacking core through free agency and the draft. So he kind of laid out 12 players. But what is it about the Raiders and linebackers again?
Well, first off, he laid out 12 players. He knows this is only a 2-hour show, right?
Yeah, we're not going to go through all 12, but we're gonna pick up on that because I think that looking at that defense, and especially with to me, my opinion, and I'll keep the discussion for later, but my opinion is that's where the Raiders need to be spending their money in free agency. It doesn't mean you don't go get some offensive players, but they need help at linebacker. They need help in the defensive backfield, and there's some marquee players there.
But you're aware that Gunther's system doesn't prioritize the linebacker, aren't you?
We've heard that. I don't know. You've never said that before.
I know. I've never heard that from Twitter when I said they need linebacker.
Twitter. By the way, Twitter at this time, here,
Dude, don't start.
I know.
Don't even.
Whenever there's issues or crises or whatever, it's just such a horrible place.
Well, that's a horrible place anytime.
It is.
This just amplifies the stupidity of people and the divide between people who have a normal everyday life and people who don't understand how real life works.
No, that's true. But the thing to me, because I had a good friend, my good friend Aaron Perlett, who's been on here before, of course, Dr. Aaron Perlett from the American Mustache Institute. He mentioned on Facebook that, hey, since for the first time since 9/11, he kind of had this feeling. And I don't at all, hey, you feel what you feel. But to me, I feel much different because I felt like at that time, of course, a different situation altogether. But I felt like people came together, right? I felt like that unified people. And it might have been behind the flag, but so be it. That's what it is. But now I see the politicalization and polarization amongst people on, ultra right and left side are just like spewing all this crap. And it's like, it just, to me, so it doesn't feel that way to me, Kelly. It doesn't feel like this issue, even though it's a serious thing we got to watch out for, it doesn't seem like it brought people together.
Oh, it doesn't. I mean, and it just, like I said, it just shows the stupidity of people in mass groups. And I don't want to, I'm not one of those people that's trying to downplay this. It's like, oh, it's just a cold blah, blah, blah. I mean, this is a serious issue, but this is in no way like a massive, serious issue that's affecting the whole country, like on an immediate basis. And you're seeing how people are freaking out and going nuts. Imagine if there was an event I hate to bring up 9/11 on anything, but just say that there was there was like a massive earthquake or something that hit two or three parts of and stuff is actually like your supply line stuff are actually cut off and start down. What would people do? I mean, you see the idiots and the morons out there, what they're doing now. Yeah. It's like, imagine if there's a real crisis to where, supply lines and stuff were actually cut. They'd be cutting people's throats at this point. Well,
and that's the thing. I always say, and I told you before we went on the air, I'm usually very casual and in a public space, especially, very, very courteous. I was brought up that way, and still think that way. And I have my kids. I had my kids with me go to the grocery store on Friday, and there's a woman hoarding pasta, like just shoveling it into her cart. And I yelled at her, and I yelled an expletive. I have to say, I don't usually do that, but I just, for me, in times of crises, I always seem to be more calm. Like, to me, it's like, okay, because if you freak out, it makes the situation worse. All right. It doesn't mean that I don't get upset or emotional at times. It just means when this stuff happens, I have to look at all those people around me and say, you know what? Act more like that. Be calm. Doesn't mean you don't have to be concerned and take care of yourself and your family. Of course you do. You have to have food supplies and all that. But don't be ridiculous.
My waitress yesterday at work, I was talking to her, and her father was at Smart and Final grocery shopping, and somebody actually took stuff out of his cart while he was he had like 2 things of chicken breast. It was like the last 2 in the store or whatever, and somebody actually took one of them out of his cart while he was getting something else. I mean, if I saw that in a store, I mean, I'd like to say I'm not a violent person. I would punch that person in the face.
No, I would too. I mean, that's the thing too, especially what I said in my personal message about protecting the vulnerable, right? So in this situation, you have folks who are older and they're homebound or they're reliant on caregivers or whatnot. They might stop coming because of this for at least the near-term future. So you got to take care of those folks. And for someone to take, man, I agree with you. If I saw that, I wouldn't even ask. I would just resort right there to physical violence because that is beyond the pale and ridiculous to begin with. But just take care of each other, folks. Just don't, relax. If you're at the store and you need toilet paper, buy enough to cover yourself.
Well, but you can't because nobody has toilet paper anymore.
Yeah. No, I went into Walgreens to get some movie candy yesterday, and the face of the checker there, I said, it's been tough having, and she's like, yeah. She's like, and I said, people are crazy, aren't they? And she's like, yes. She's like, I don't understand it. People are like waiting at our back door when the truck pulls up. They're not even going through the front door anymore. And it's like, okay. All right. Well, we're almost at the first break already.
Well, to quote the great American movie Men in Black, when Tommy Lee Jones is talking to Will Smith, a person is smart, people are irrational.
There you go. Yeah, especially when it comes to time of crises. All right, well, we're going to step aside, pay some bills. Yes, we still have to do that. The world has to function, folks. Business has to continue. You can't shut everything down. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about sports. Like, we don't have sports to watch. How has that affected your life? Has it made it worse? Has it made it better? Are you talking to your family for once? What's going on? We will address that, and then we'll put that to bed and talk about Raiders football the rest of the show. You're listening to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
CBS Sports Radio. You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
All right, welcome back to the Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. In our original studio, we're back in the cave, the COVID-19 free cave, known as the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studio. We moved to the bigger studio, and due to some circumstances, we're back in the smaller studio, which is fine. It's our roots. I like it. But at the same time, next week we have a guest, one of the starting offensive players of the Raiders, the current Raiders. It's called a tease. Kelly, right? You've dealt with teases before?
Next week or 2 weeks?
Next week. 2 weeks. Thank you. Excuse me.
There you go.
Gosh.
Be good at the show.
Thank you, Kelly. It's this hysteria. It's trying to find paper towels. No,
actually, it's the last 3 days without sports have been by so slow. It feels like it's been 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh,
that's a professional segue right there.
That
folks.
Really, Kelly. You know what? You have to understand that it is talking on the radio, and there's some great podcasters out there too. The most listened to content actually is a podcaster, and Joe Rogan and all that. But you have done so well developing that segue might be your best yet. If we were giving awards right now, I would give you the award for that one. It was just beautiful. Anyway.
For best segue? Nice.
Yeah. And not the thing you ride. Okay, Kelly, so here's the deal. Yeah, so now with this whole virus thing going on and people stuck, for the first time since September 11, 2001, sports were canceled. And not only have they been canceled, but they have been canceled for the foreseeable future, including the entire NCAA tournament, which is an economic torpedo to the economy of Las Vegas that hits mid-ship, okay, because it's a huge weekend. And, Kelly, you work in the service industry as well. Talk about what it's like right now.
I'm lucky because where I'm at, I'm not going to see the effects of this because even though I work on the Strip, I'm not actually working for a casino. There have already been hundreds and will be thousands of people laid off in the next probably 48 to 72 hours in this town. I mean, bars and restaurants are shutting down. The buffets are shutting down at the MGM property, all the Cirque shows. I mean, it's just crazy to think of how fast this happened. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine last night. She was in a car wreck about 4 months ago, had been back to work for 3 weeks, and now found out her bar is shutting down.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, it's like, it's the whole, I can't even remember the product. Life comes at you pretty fast.
Yeah.
It hit us in the face really hard, and it's only getting worse out here.
Yeah.
If you look at the occupancy numbers for the next month at some of the hotels.
Under 10%.
I was getting ready to say, as of 4 days ago, Cosmo's best was 30% for the month of March. They had 1 day in the 30s, and that was a tournament day that just people haven't canceled yet.
That's insane. And that's the thing. I don't want to be depressing here, so we're going to talk, but we want to give you the reality of what's happening here in Las Vegas. The one thing I want to get to is the stadium, because as soon as this stuff started happening, there were a lot of folks who were concerned with the funding of the stadium because, as you know, and those that did not want the funding of the stadium to occur with public money, which is done through a hotel tax, that what if something happens? What if 2008 happens again and we have a downturn? Fair question, okay? So now we have this. Business in Las Vegas has tanked, okay, as far as international domestic tourism and hotels and all that. So with that, I got a lot of questions on Twitter. People saying, "Hey, what about the stadium? Is this going to slow construction?" Number one, Mick Akers did a great story in the RJ saying, no, it's not going to slow the physical construction. They're not having issues with construction workers or any of that kind of stuff. So that moves on. From the funding perspective, I want everyone out there to understand. I'm just going to lay it out very simply. When SB 1, the bill that passed in Nevada to fund the stadium, occurred, they created, to protect the taxpayer, i.e. taxpayer, in quotes, to protect the taxpayer, they set up a waterfall fund, a reserve fund. That reserve fund, while it is also funded by hotel tax, The first $45.1 million of it were funded by a sale of public bonds, which occurred almost, a year and a half ago. That, or no, maybe longer than that. It was a couple of years.
Yeah.
That first, because and I hate to use this term because it's been used so much in the last 3 days, with an abundance of caution, when they constructed the deal around the stadium, they made sure that the first $45 million, those bonds, went into the reserve fund. It didn't go to the construction. So in essence, what that means, and this comes from Jeremy Aguirre over at Applied Analysis, what that means is if Clark County did not have one person stay in one hotel room the remainder of the year, I should say for 365 days, not even the remainder of the year, for a year, that $45 million would cover the debt service on it. So there's no risk there. So if that, I hope that answers the question. I tried to make it as simple, and it is a complex thing, but the public bond portion covered that reserve fund. So if the hotel tax doesn't recover for 3 or 4 months, it's okay, right? So I just want people to understand that, Kelly, because it's public bonds, funding. It's not, and it happened a while ago, so people don't needed a refresher. So I hope that helps. And I'll check in the chat on our social media channels, which, of course, we are streaming live video, YouTube, Periscope, and Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the first thing, whenever you do a construction project like this, when you're basing it off some economic thing, you plan, like I said, you plan for that downturn. It's just nobody expected it to happen before the damn thing's even built.
Yeah.
That's just the kicker. But I mean, like I said, it's been planned for, it's been taken care of. And if you've lived in this town long enough, you've seen, you saw the Great Recession, you saw 9/11. I mean, you've seen what happens out here when it gets bad. I mean, it's a ghost town for a while. But you've also seen what happens the second you start going back up and everything gets going again. This town's an economic engine, and that's never going to change.
No, and I think that it's one of those deals where you look at the Raiders coming to Las Vegas, it's a big deal, and here we are running up to this. Of course, we were preparing for the NFL draft. There was a report out last night, Pro Football Weekly, saying that they have sources that say it's going to be canceled or moved to May and that it's not going to be in Las Vegas. I don't have sources that say that. I don't have confirmation of that. Neither do a lot of other very respected and connected journalists that I know that I've talked to back channel. No one has definitively at the NFL said this. Of course, they haven't announced anything. Will it go on like it was supposed to?
No.
I think highly doubtful. Hey, Trent. Highly doubtful that it goes on like we expected. Okay? That does not mean it's canceled. That does not mean they've made a decision yet. Pro Football Weekly jumped out in front. I'm not disparaging them. I just have people telling me the opposite. So we'll see what happens. But currently that economic engine, the draft, we were counting anywhere from 250 to 700,000 people on the very high end spectrum, which I thought was always too high. But nonetheless, we were counting on that, Kelly, for people to come here, and that is something that we know will not happen. As far as it's just not going to be as big as it was. But we want to hear what you have to say. Call us 702-889-5978. And in fact, it's been a few weeks. Buckle up because he's got pent up opinions and sound off. It is our good friend Wally. Wally, what's up, buddy?
What's up, knuckleheads?
Wally.
There's only 2 of us here today, man.
How many phone numbers you guys got, man?
Well, it depends which burner we're using that day.
Jeez, my Lord. What, the little prince couldn't bother to come into the show today?
The domestic man of leisure is tied up. I don't know who tied him up, but he's tied up. But he'll be back next week.
Hey, there's breaking news.
Yep.
We're all still alive.
This is true, Wally. Yes.
It truly is a Festivus miracle.
Well, you've already aired your grievances, but do you have any more?
Oh, I'm just so annoyed with these people, man.
Well, Wally, what about you're not a fan of the draft being in Las Vegas. Why is that?
Because you morons are going to be on the Strip, and I'm not going to be able to get to where you're at. Because I'm not messing with that nonsense.
Oh, come on, it'd be fun. What are you talking about?
Just have it like last year, okay?
People coughing all over the place. Are you kidding me?
No, just have it at the bar, wherever, like last year, and it'll be great.
All right, Wally. Hey, Wally, what one free agent do you want the Raiders to sign? You know, the year starts this week. What are you looking forward to? Who do you think the Raiders should sign?
We need a real good safety and a real good corner, and of course, a linebacker. But I think, other than that, I think we're going to be sweet. We're going to get a good wide receiver in the draft, hopefully. So, man, we're not that far away, dude.
No, I agree with that. I think
you know how quick this stuff can turn, man.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I think you make that defense middle of the road at least. That's all you got to do, and then you add those pieces on offense, and you're clicking on all full cylinders. Wally, thanks, man. We appreciate it, and we'll let you know which number to call. We'll let you know which number to call next week.
Kelly, what are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Good. You're still alive. You were sounding like you were going to die the other day. You were going to get the coronavirus at work.
I've talked to people and I've made the comments it's not if I get it, it's when I get it, man. It's just you just deal with the public and stuff with something like this. It's just math at this point, dude. I work on the Las Vegas Strip. I see hundreds, if not more, people a day I've got to deal with. Money changing hands, everything like that. It's for me, it's there are several service industry workers that have tested positive for it here in town. There's been a few tourists that were in town. It's just math to me. I'm expecting at one point to get this. Hopefully, if I do, I don't pass it on to somebody else.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, luckily for me, I just sit in my shop and fix all the electronics in the slot machine, so I don't have to go on the floor very often unless we get a big move or a carpet change or something, so I don't have to deal with those morons too much.
Wally, man, we got to run to a break. Thanks, as always, and we'll see you around soon, buddy.
Good to hear from you, Wally.
All right, there's Wally, our VIP caller when he calls in. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to bring you our conversation with the great the Wiz, Steve Wisniewski. You don't want to miss one. He will talk about the CBA. Make sure you stay tuned here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Sports Radio. Hi, this is Steve Wisniewski, and you're listening to the Silver and Black Today.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas. We are excited to be joined by I've always found that when we talk to fans, one of the guys that the fans of the Raiders love is the Wiz, Steve Wisniewski. Of course, Steve was a guard with the Raiders, the Los Angeles and Oakland Raiders. So he was there when they moved back to Oakland. 1989 second-round draft pick out of Penn State, 8-time Pro Bowl, 2-time All-Pro first team, 6-time second-team All-Pro. Also part of the NFL's 1990s all-decade team. So we go out on the Newsmaker line and bring Steve in. Steve, thanks for being with us here on Silver and Black today.
Scott, it's great to be on the show, and I am pumped up to talk Raider football. So much love to Raider Nation in Vegas.
Yeah, they love you. And by the way, you have a connect. Your son is a Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officer here, is he not?
Thank you. Yes, he is. He's doing a great job serving the community, and I just give all of the love and respect I can to Las Vegas Metro and the men and women who wear a badge and risk their life to serve the community for very little thanks. So I'm so proud of him and proud of the job they're doing. Yeah,
and here in Las Vegas, I'm sure as you hear from the stories from your son, and again, thank you for him being a first responder and protecting me and my family. He, the Metro deals with so much here. You know, the city of Las Vegas is so dynamic, 41 million visitors a year. So they deal with things that you would never expect them to deal with, and they do it with such grace, such respect and humility. It's really great. So thank you to him and you for his service. All right, let's jump in. I want to start first, Steve, and tap into your experience as a longtime NFL player, because as we talk, this is Sunday, and last night the voting closed for the Players Association for the new collective bargaining agreement. And that vote, we're going to wait back to see how long that takes to hear on the results and whether it's ratified. But if you look at this CBA, of course, the things that fans mostly hear about, Steve, is, of course, going to 17 games, which is a point of contention with some players, and then other things like expanded playoffs and all of that. But when you look at this deal and the studying I've done on it, and I really want to get an education from you today, is that if you look at this deal for the rank and file NFL player, which most people forget about, right? They think of the Aaron Rodgers of the world. They think of the Ezekiel Elliott's and those type of players. They forget about that most players are not making $20, $30, $40 million a year, and a lot of them are making the league minimum or just above. From my point of view, Steve, when I look at this deal, this is a great deal for the majority of players in the National Football League. Now, we've heard some of the top paid players not so happy with it. Talk a little bit about that and what the difference is depending what you get paid and what your status is in the league.
Yeah, so great question, Scott. And big picture is this: the CBA, for some of those people who aren't so closely following this, just spells out the groundwork of what the equity split is. How do players get paid? What piece of the pie do they get with the owners? And traditionally, owners are never happy, and traditionally, players are never happy, and they both posture on both sides. But this is really a great deal for the players and for the owners. If I was a player rep, I'd probably pull my hamstring running to sign this deal. And why I say it's such a great deal is that the NFL players are going to get 48%, and that will go up to even a higher percentage of the total revenue generated by the league. And that's highest of any other sports franchise or sports league. So they're getting the biggest piece of the pie possible. Now, there are more players in the NFL team than you would have on a basketball or baseball team. So there's more players that share that revenue, but it's fair. It's fair to the players. And the owners, I think they have a good approach here. They believe in the big pie and that everyone will win. So there's some little details about adding a game here or there, but I feel overall this is good for the players. And then the other concern on the players' standpoint, you're right. Not everybody is a star player. There's a lot of guys who do make league minimum, but also people forget the average length of an NFL, career is still 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of guys who come in the league and leave the league. You don't really know much about them. They were a backup here or there. And, a deal like this and the medical and the health care and the players' annuity, that helps everyone.
Well, no, that's a great point, and I think you're absolutely right, because people forget, because you get so, for fans, and the league justifiably so promotes their stars. So we're going to get a lot of Patrick Mahomes, a lot of Lamar Jackson, these guys who are the face, if you will, of the NFL. Meanwhile, that long snapper who spends 5 years in the league, or that offensive lineman who was a backup on an NFL team for 4 or 5 years, you kind of forget about them, and this deal obviously helps them out significantly. But you talked about there as well the fact that when you look at the structure of an NFL team and the sharing of the revenue here, owners in the NFL, it's not like the NBA. I saw a lot of people saying, boy, this time around the CBA, the players are going to take control. With all due respect to the owners and the players, the owners usually and still have all the leverage, do they not?
Yeah, certainly. The owners have the leverage. And we know that it's the great players that fill the seats. When you go to Kansas City Chiefs, my nephew just won a Super Bowl. Steve Wisniewski, he was a starting left guard, real solid player. Super thrilled for him and the whole organization. No one's buying a ticket to see my nephew, Steve Wisniewski, as good as he is at left guard, but we're all tuning in to watch Patrick Mahomes. So the owners have leverage, but they know it's still the great players who sell the seats. Absolutely,
and it'll be interesting that 17th game. I'd love to hear your perspective on that, because you know why the owners want to do it, because it's revenue, it's more money, it's TV, it's everything that they want to do as business owners. I get that. Some of the players, especially that high end, that very small percentage of the highest paid players in the league, aren't really in favor of it. But then the rank and file player, if I'm somebody down the line, like you said, the players you're talking about, that's an extra game. I get another game check, do I not?
Yeah, you do, Scott. And if I was playing today, I'd play 22 games. I wouldn't care. And again, because you're getting a share of the revenue, and the revenue is going to increase. And also, there's some different dynamics as the league has evolved. My older brother played in the league in 81 for 4 years with the Colts. I got in 89, playing through 2001. Got 13 seasons. Stefan's now on his 10th year.
Yeah.
But the game has evolved, and football's changed. There's no more two-a-day practices for these players. They can only wear pads 14 times throughout the season because of the CBA. When I played, we had 5 weeks of two-a-days, and literally we'd try to kill each other on Wednesday and Thursday, which probably wasn't smart. So what I'm getting at is these players are in better condition and less hits on their body. And the 17th game is not going to make or break anybody. You can play a much longer, have more longevity in the league now than you ever have at any point in the history of the league. And we're more aware of things such as brain trauma, the effects of concussion, neurological testing. So I really think the 17th game is an absolute non-issue.
Yeah, and it's, again, we're speaking with Steve Wisniewski, the great whiz, if you will, of the Raiders, 8-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro as well. And Steve, yeah, I mean, I think that, to me, they're going to have less contact now. If I understand the reading of the CBA that I did, they'll have less contact too. So from a health perspective, it doesn't make too much of a difference to add the game. All right, now let's switch gears a little bit to your beloved Raiders. And of course, we're speaking to Raider Nation in the new capital of Raider Nation. That is Las Vegas. You've spent a lot of time here, not only because of your son, but because of the Raiders and the work you do with their community outreach and being an ambassador for the team. The stadium is getting there. It's almost done. They're about to close off the roof. The excitement here in Las Vegas, as I'm sure you've seen coming to community events, is growing and growing each and every day. Now, of course, this coronavirus crisis has people kind of down a little bit. But as we look towards football season, Steve, talk about what this is going to mean for this franchise. You moved with the franchise from L.A. to Oakland. Now they're moving to Las Vegas. But this is a very different move, is it not?
It really is. And, big picture, I've congratulated Mark Davis and Mark Bedane several times on the job they've done. I mean, literally, they're doing everything right. And 10 years ago, none of us could have seen where the Raider organization, where the franchise is today. And it's so exciting. I mean, you just have to be excited for the team, for the franchise, and for Raider Nation. They've moved to a dynamic market that is hungry for football. They're going to have a world-class stadium that's going to be a great fan experience for everybody. They're engaged with the community. And the people that work at the Raiders and community relations are some of the finest people I've ever met. And every time I do an event with them, I walk away saying, they are first class. They just do everything right, and they're there to bless the community. So I've been around a lot of different organizations, have guys and buddies of mine from every franchise, and I can't tell you anyone who's doing things better than the Raiders right now. And the product that they put on the field, I think, is going to be really exciting. I just love the nucleus of young players we have. And how can you not be excited with John Gruden as your head coach and this core of just dynamic young players? And I could go through the roster, but there are so many good young players, and we have more draft picks for the years ahead here that I'm thrilled. I'm excited.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I was going to ask you about, too, because for Raiders fans, I mean, let's face it, it's the elephant in the room. The last 2 decades have been tough, with the exception of a couple years on the field, that is. It's been very tough. Now, with all the off-the-field things in such a positive direction, like you said, under Mark Davis, who I think doesn't get anywhere near the credit that he's due for making the decisions and for allowing people like Mark Bedane to make the decisions that he's made. And then you look at that. So off the field, things are going so well. The stadium, the new practice facility and headquarters here right outside Las Vegas in Henderson, which is phenomenal. So all that is going well. Then on the field, they bring in Coach Gruden. Everything's turning in the right direction. Now, the season ended on a down note last year, but that was attrition. There's a lot of different reasons for that. But it looks like they're very close on offense, particularly a few players maybe away from really breaking out. When you look at that Raiders offense, and of course, Derek Carr tends to be a lightning rod for some, but overall, how far? I mean, that offense is pretty close, don't you think, Steve?
I really do, because I believe in John Gruden as a brilliant offensive coach. He was my coach. I know what he's teaching, and I believe in his schemes, first of all. And Greg Olson does a great job, too, as offensive coordinator. But the core, the nucleus of young players and the effort that they're giving, I know we haven't seen the wins we want yet, but I love the attitude, the effort, and the way this thing is trending. It's kind of like stocks. I follow stocks closely and things of that nature, digital assets, cryptocurrencies, and you want to see what's the trend and where's this thing trending. And I like what I see. And so now certainly we need to get back on defense to get them some more tools, some more players. You're only as good as your players. You can have a solid scheme, but your players have to execute that scheme. And I like the effort I see, but we just need some more players, I think, on defense to help execute.
Yeah, no question. And then when you look at today's offenses, Steve, I mean, having played where you played in the trenches on some really, really obviously great Raiders teams, the way the rules changes in the NFL have occurred, it's a quarterback league. You could argue, I guess, in some ways it's always been a quarterback league, but the roles have changed. The game has changed. You have this much wide open spread offense that you're seeing kind of dominate the league. For you, when you see that, what's great about that, and then maybe what's a little bit of a drawback for how that's changed in the NFL?
Yeah, it's funny. We imagine if Jerry Rice or Tim Brown was a rookie in the league now, and they had the opportunity to come and play in these wide open offenses where defenders cannot strangle them at the line of scrimmage. We used to play teams like the Kansas City Chiefs that would literally rip the jerseys off our receivers at the line of scrimmage and not let them go, right? Just to disrupt the pass route. That's, in theory, that's illegal now. There's so much more flexibility. The league wants to see more points scored. So the plus side is we're seeing more games with wide open scores and scoring, and fans like that. Most fans don't want to see a 6-3 game.
Right.
We'd rather see 36-33, And so the plus side is you're seeing more scoring. The downside is maybe, we're getting heart palpitations because our favorite teams are giving up 30, 40, 50 points some games,
Yeah.
But I think it's making it more fun for the average fan. We want to see points scored. And offensively, you have to be able to move the ball around. That's what I love about the Raiders, though. You got a Josh Jacobs who's as fine as any young running back. You got 2 amazing tight ends. You got a core of young wide receivers. And I think we're going to be able to move the ball and get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly. So That's what you need to do is have more of a spread offense mindset in the league today.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's going to be exciting to see how that, because the draft this year, and hopefully it goes on as planned here in Las Vegas, the Raiders clearly have 2 picks in that first round, and everyone's anticipating it'll be a wide receiver and then maybe a defender like a linebacker. So we'll see how that goes. But Steve, we're going to see you a lot here, won't we? Now with the stadium and the team here and your son here.
Yes, sir. I love every opportunity I have to come to Las Vegas. And, I'm not a big gambler. I'm not a big drinker, but I love Las Vegas. There's so much to do out there, so many good people, and an opportunity to see my son is anytime the Raiders call, I'm on my way. I'm the next flight out.
Well, we look forward to seeing you out at Allegiant Stadium and being around the Raiders in the practice facility. It's going to be a great time. We certainly appreciate your time today.
You bet. You do a great job, Scott, and it's always a pleasure to be on your show.
All right. Steve Wisniewski, Raider great, of course, 8-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, first team, 6-time second team. We appreciate it. We're going to step aside. When we come back, the Silver and Black Today rolls on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Thank you to Steve Wisniewski, the Wiz. Always fun to hear him talk. Kelly, I love talking to him because, first of all, the guy was just simply a badass. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. But also, somebody who really just keeps in touch with all aspects of the sport, not just the Raiders. Of course, he's once a Raider, always a Raider, and he's going to be here a lot. His son is a cop here, which I keep still wanting to run into him. I haven't had a chance yet, but
I try to avoid running into as many cops as possible.
Yes, although you and I like to enjoy a premium cigar now and then, and the cigar lounge we go to, a lot of
filthy with cops.
Yes, lots of police, which I always feel very safe there.
Yeah,
but I'm hoping.
Good point.
I'm hoping that maybe he'll stop in. Maybe he doesn't smoke cigars, but nonetheless, good times. And I want to thank Steve for joining us. We recorded that interview with him late on Friday before the CBA was passed. And of course, if you missed the news, the NFL players have voted to approve the new collective bargaining agreement, staving off any chance of a labor outage between now and 10 years from now. So you have 10 years, and you're not going to have any work stoppages, so they can focus on the game, if you will. We'll have plenty of coverage for this on silverandblacktoday.com this week. We'll also continue talking about it here on the show as we move on. But, Kelly, the 17th game, to hear Wisniewski, a guy who played the offensive line, say that the 17th game is not, for him, in his opinion, not an issue on player safety. And I had somebody in YouTube on our video broadcast say the 17th game is not good for the rank and file players, which is not true because they get an extra game of pay. And with all the part of the new CBA, and they're not going to go into this detail yet, but they're gonna draw back even more of the contact in pregame and preseason. So that means that the player safety issue, because of the new game, the 17th game, they're going to cut training camp again. And the amount of hitting that can be done. So overall, I don't see how anybody could have much of a problem with this unless you're in the top 2% of wage earners in the NFL.
Well, like when you say they're cutting back like preseason and OTAs and all stuff like that, that contact's not the same as the stuff you're getting in a game.
No, of course not.
Because, I mean, even in practice, when you're practicing in full pads and everything, you're not going all against each other. But I think the point that was made was the extra game check is big because the average career is 3.5 years.
Yes.
And that's the thing. In the long run, that 17th game's bad, but how many people have a 15-year career?
Exactly.
How many people have a 10-year career? That extra check for the people that are there for a year or two, which is going to be the bulk of the people that voted on this, is going to be way more important than some of the the looks of that long-term health.
Yeah, no, well put. And I think that's part of the point, Kelly, is that you have that disparity of most of the players in the NFL are not Aaron Rodgers. For Aaron Rodgers and guys like that who are going to play 15 seasons, you're absolutely right. I get it. But most of the people aren't that way. The other thing about this CBA that I love, and we'll get somebody to come on hopefully either next week or the following week, is about what it does to take care of former players. Some of the sharing of revenue for former players, especially around medical issues and things like that. You can't insure those people for medical. It's just astronomical. You just couldn't do that. But at least they've carved out some way to take care of some of those guys from previous eras.
Well, it's not even the cost on something like that. The NFL looked into having like lifetime health care and stuff, and no one's going to underwrite that. So it's not even the fact that you can't cut a check for it. Nobody's willing to take that check.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's the whole thing. An insurance policy is only good if someone will write it.
Yeah, no, that's right. You have to, and it's all based on risk and actuary tables and all that stuff. It's just so astronomically high, you're not going to get anybody to do it. But that's what I love about that CBA, and of course the players get more money too for them all the way through, which is good. And I'm seeing a lot of folks on our YouTube page where we have the most active chat and our live video stream talking about that and the CBA and that they like it. And of course, if you're a football fan, you like it because that means you don't have a chance of football stopping in the next few years, especially the 2021 season. So
just got to get it started.
Yeah, you just got to get it started, right? And again, the rumor about the NFL draft being canceled in Las Vegas, that is not true yet. We have not had any verification of that, and so we have to just wait off on that. Kelly's mouthing on the video. People are like watching Kelly mouth, not happening. And I agree, Kelly. I think it's gonna change. There's no question it's not going to be the same event that it was going to be.
And that's the thing. If you're not going to have that whole thing, you're not just going to have the players come out here and have like an empty auditorium to say
you just
had
do
the
it in
draft
New York.
in Vegas. Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Yeah,
there hasn't been any confirmation. And that's just the thing about especially media and Twitter and all that stuff today. You can throw out there that you heard that because there's a really good chance. Like, hell, also, I've said it weeks ago, this ain't happening. Right. The second the NBA canceled their season, we were at work, and I was like, well, there goes the draft.
Yep.
Somebody's like, what? I go, every sport is going to do this now because no one wants to be that one league or that one entity. That's like South by Southwest.
Like
all these
the NBA?
Yeah. Everybody doesn't want to be that one person that's done this. The NBA will follow suit.
Yes. And I'll tell you that I get it, and I think that we'll see how it all unfolds. It's unfortunate because this was going to be Las Vegas's kind of intro into the NFL family, the first event that was going to happen here as an NFL market. I'm hoping they just delay everything by a year, meaning that I forgot who has it next year. Do you remember?
No.
But whoever has it next year, they just move it all a year. I hope that's what they do, and they don't cancel it, but we'll see what happens. By the way, also, Phil, our viewer on YouTube, says Major League Baseball offers lifetime health care. Yes, but they don't get hit in the head repeatedly. So I think that's the big difference.
Oh, yeah, then that's the big thing. It's you can find somebody to write a Major League Baseball actuary like thing like that, because it's not it's for baseball stuff. It's mostly like knee, elbow, ankle. You know, what I mean, it's not the actual debilitating as the NFL stuff.
Right, and not only that, but the Major League Baseball union is the perhaps strongest union in the world, believe it or not, and so they were able to negotiate things the NFL can't. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to talk to Austin Gayle, Pro Football Focus. Raiders free agents is the subject. Don't go anywhere. Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
How often do you think about what you need to do in case you find yourself in a car accident? It's one of those deal with it if you have to.
we've got your Raiders covered.
Knock on wood if you're with me.
It's Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back, Raider Nation. Hope you're holding up well. Don't hold up in your house. You can go outside a little bit. Just be careful. That's all. Save me some toilet paper. No, we got enough toilet paper at home. We're good. Paper towels, another story. We're learning to wash towels. Imagine that. I'm teaching my kids, like, no more paper towels. You're going to use towels and we'll do laundry. All right. Somebody will get on me about wasting water. Anyway, we are back talking Raiders football, and we hope you're all doing well. You need that respite, right? You need to be able to talk about the Raiders. We still don't have any word that the NFL free agent period and new year will be delayed. Of course, legal tampering starts tomorrow morning at, I think, 8:59 a.m. Pacific time. So we'll see what happens today. If there's any announcements, anything happens. Of course, we know the breaking news, the CBA passed. And so we have labor peace in the NFL, at least for the next 10 years. But let's focus on the Raiders. A lot of folks on our YouTube channel watching our simulcast and listening to us on the radio.com app are listening and saying, hey, what about free agents? What are the Raiders going to do? They want to know the free agents we think they should sign. And so when I saw that, I said, you know what? I got to get our good friend Austin Gayle, is Associate Director of Content at Pro Football Focus, to join us. And first of all, Austin, I gotta tell you, with this whole situation going on, sorry for you as an Aztec that you're robbed of your team maybe making a run in the NCAA tournament.
Oh, man, just brutal. I mean, best season San Diego State has had in quite a long time, and not in the school's history. It is unfortunate, but it's definitely understanding why this is happening. I think it's unfortunate, but it's, not surprising.
No, and everybody's in the same boat, and if you're Kansas, you're already hanging banners. Amazing. But anyway, let's get back to football. So, Austin, we look at the Raiders this year. They're sitting there with $55 million in cap space. Of course, they have great draft capital, at least in the first and the third rounds coming up in April or May's draft, depending if reports are true. But when we look at this, the Raiders need the most help, I believe, on defense. When you look at the Raiders and the free agency period coming up, what do you believe to be their biggest area of need?
Yeah, I think it's in the secondary, if I had to be honest. I do think even though they do have Jonathan Abram coming back from injury, they liked some of the things they saw from Trayvon Mullen down the stretch. It's still a huge need for them on the back end, and it's something that's very difficult to fill in the draft. I think I say this over and over again in the offseason. If you draft two cornerbacks in the first round, it's rare that you're going to get elite caliber, high-end caliber play from those rookies as rookies. Maybe 2-3 years down the road, they're able to fill needs for you. I think if you're going to fill needs, you have to fill them in free agency, and I think that starts at cornerback and safety. I look at Byron Jones. He's going to be a big money, big-ticket item in free agency, but if he's someone the Raiders can land in Las Vegas, a huge help to that defense. I also like Anthony Harris, an underrated safety that will be a free agent this offseason, another guy that can play that deep safety role and allow Jonathan Abram to where I think he plays his best and come in the box.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I'm glad you mentioned Harris because I had on one of our other shows here on CBS Sports Radio 1140, the Playmakers during the week from 3 to 6, they had me on to talk about Raiders free agents, and that's the guy I brought up because he tends not to get the attention in Minnesota that he deserves because of who he plays with, but would be a great opportunity there. Let's talk about Byron Jones because I'm a big believer that is the guy you can really build, and he could be the face of the defense here in Las Vegas, couldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Byron Jones is easily one of the top defensive prospects in this free agent class. I also think, though, that this cornerback class in the free agency is somewhat deep. If you can't land Byron Jones, Chris Harris Jr. can do a lot of things for you in a short-term type of situation. He can play the slot. He can play outside. He's a very valuable corner that's been good for a very long time. I also think Trey Wayne comes in, brings length, and brings speed. In the right system, I think he can have plus play. And another guy, James Bradbury, a slower corner, great length, though. Love that length. And if you're going to play a press cover 3 type of scheme, he's the guy that you want. I think James Bradbury will come cheaper than Byron Jones. Chris Harris Jr., Trey Waynes, all of those guys will come cheaper than Byron Jones. If you can't land the big name, don't leave the position entirely because I do think this free agent class has value at corner a little bit deeper beyond Byron Jones.
Again, we're speaking with Pro Football Focus Associate Director of Content, one of our favorite guys in the biz, Austin Gayle.
Hey, Austin, it's Kelly. You just mentioned it right. Well, actually, first off, being from San Diego State, you do know you can't spell second round upset without SDSU, right?
Come on, man.
Oh.
Watching this season, you could just tell because they don't have that star on the court, it was going to be tough to push into the Sweet 16 and all those things. But I was rooting for it. It's unfortunate we don't get to see how it plays out.
Hey, man, you're talking to somebody that's got 150-1 Dayton future, so I'm really disappointed the tournament's gone as well. But you mentioned the big thing with Byron Jones. He's obviously going to be the big corner everybody's out. What's it going to cost to get him? Because the rumor is he's looking for $16 million a year, and to me that's a little high. But with all the cap space out there, I think he's going to get it.
Yeah, right now you can go to PFF.com and see over the cap's projected contract for all of the top free agents. Right now, the projection is 5 years, $16 million per year. I think that's what he ends up getting. It'll be such a bidding war that he will get that money. I think there will be a team that's willing to pay that. Chris Harris Jr. projected at $13 million per year. Then you have guys like Trey Waynes at $7.5 million per year. You're going to have to spend big for a young, long, athletic corner like Byron Jones, a guy that's proven he can match and mirror number one receivers in the NFL. These other guys can't do that. They can play one side of the field. They can do well against number two wide receivers. But Byron Jones is the only corner in this class that you'd feel comfortable shadowing guys like Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, etc. These other guys are more pieces of the puzzle.
Austin, let's move into the linebacker position. And, of course, one of the big name out there, the biggest, I think, at least for Raider fans, is Corey Littleton. Is he a fit in Las Vegas, and do they have a shot at getting him, or where do you think he's going to end up?
I'll tell you right now, any athletic linebacker should be a fit in Las Vegas. They need athleticism at that position. They need speed. They need playmaking ability and coverage. And this, again, is a good free agency to attack that. You don't have to grab Kenneth Murray, Patrick Queen in the first round. You can get a guy like Corey Littleton, Joe Schilber, even maybe a poor man's of those is Blake Martinez. You can get a guy that can play certain coverages in the NFL, guys that have proven they can play coverage in the NFL in free agency. I think Corey Littleton should be a top target for the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, it makes too much sense. They've struggled to fill that position for so long. Corey Littleton does such a good job of making plays in coverage and limiting plays after the catch. Joe Schilber actually ranks number one in the NFL in 2019 in limiting yards after the catch per reception allowed. He keeps things in front of him and doesn't give up big plays. Both those guys, Joe Schilber and Corey Littleton, are two guys that the Raiders should target.
And Austin, one of the things that obviously the Raiders need is a wide receiver one, right? They went out and signed Terrell Williams, who was beset by the plantar fasciitis last year, but I think he is a good guy at the number two. And then, of course, you have the rookie Hunter Renfrow in the slot, who did very well in his rookie year, was injured a little bit too. But when I look at the free agent market, to me, and I'm not counting A.J. Green, and you're in Cincinnati, so you tell me, but I'm pretty sure A.J. Green will be back in Cincinnati. So when I look at the rest of the market, I don't see anybody, unless John Gruden and Mike Mayock think that they can turn a guy into a wide receiver one. I don't see anybody out there that really excites me. Am I missing the boat on anybody?
I mean, Amari Cooper, but I don't think that reunion's coming anytime soon. I would agree with you. The top two guys right now on PFF Sport in free agency at the receiver position are Amari Cooper and A.J. Green. I don't think either of those two guys leave Dallas or Cincinnati, respectively. After that, it's Robbie Anderson for us, who I think is a number two receiver at his best. He can't run all of the routes on the route tree. He's improving every year, but not a guy you want to pay true wide receiver one money. This is where I'll say go to the draft, because there are two wide receiver ones in this class that the Raiders should target at 12 or 19, being Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb. I might even throw Henry Ruggs in the list. He's PFF's wide receiver 3 right now, but they should come away from that 12th pick, given value and where they're selecting, with the wide receiver, whether it's Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, or Ruggs, because all three of those guys can offer really, really good production early in their careers. They're very polished, very complete types of wide receivers.
Hey, Austin, it's Kelly again. You actually just brought up the point I was going to make about how the wide receiver one, you should have to go after the draft. To me, I have Jeudy 1, then kind of Lamb and Ruggs in the same category just under there. Who do you guys have as, if you had to pick your number one wide receiver, who do you guys at PFF have as one, Jeudy or Lamb?
Yeah, right now, PFF's number one wide receiver is Jerry Jeudy. However, CeeDee Lamb is right behind him, I think, at 8th overall on our board. I do see Jerry Jeudy as the best receiver prospect in this class. I think if you look at it from a releases and route running standpoint, Jerry Jeudy is better than CeeDee Lamb. He's also fantastic moving inside and outside the alignment slot for outside receiver. I think CeeDee Lamb's better after the catch maybe better in contested catch situations. But bottom line is, I want my receiver to get open, and Jerry Jeudy gets open better than any receiver in this class.
Yeah, and I think I like Ruggs a lot. I'm on the Ruggs train because of the contested ball issue, but also he does have that speed, and not just pure speed, but I think he breaks away. But yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with either of all those guys, and Jeudy seems to be the one that everybody favors. But Austin, and we look at this, the last thing I'll ask you, and we've kind of stayed out of the fray a little bit recently, is it's been a little quiet, but it always pops back up. But of course, it's the Derek Carr issue. To me, Derek Carr as a trade target, we keep hearing Bears. What's the latest you're hearing on the market for Derek Carr and the possibility of him not being with the Raiders?
Yeah, ever since I went to Indianapolis for the Combine, I've been hearing the Raiders have been shopping Derek Carr from everyone I've talked to. I think Chicago has been the team that comes up the most because they're in a situation where they'd like to bring in Derek Carr. I also think everyone's on board with the idea that Derek Carr would thrive, perhaps even better, in that Nagy system than John Gruden because of how much he focuses on that first read type of stuff and keeps things close to the line of scrimmage. He can do what Trubisky does now a little bit better, and I think that's what the Bears see in Derek Carr if there is indeed interest. However, if the Raiders are going to move on to Derek Carr, I do think there is an option, a way of going about things. It's signing Marcus Mariota in free agency and maybe bringing in Jalen Hurts at the top of day two. Molding your offense around these kind of mobile quarterbacks that can do a lot of different things, offer value as runners, and really change that offense quite a bit for the Las Vegas Raiders. I think that's the option I would go. Don't trade up to Tua Tagovailoa. Don't go all the way up that way. Get a guy in the back, top of day two, sign Marcus Mariota, and kind of play your cards that way if there is indeed interest in trading Derek Carr.
All right, Austin Gayle from Pro Football Focus. He is the Associate Director of Content there, a great friend of the show. Austin, as always, my friend, we appreciate the time, and we'll catch up with you. Hold on to your hats this week. We'll see what happens.
Of course, thank you.
All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to be joined by our senior NFL columnist here at silverandblacktoday.com, and that, of course, is one Mr. Moe Moton. We're going to talk to him about the linebacker position with the Raiders. What can they do? They need to do a lot. What can they do to remake that linebacker core and to get better on defense? You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
Unfiltered hockey talk for Golden Knights fans.
They've been on that outside looking in for periods of time, but now that they find themselves at the top of the division again with some breathing room, and considering the slate of opponents that they've been able to secure wins against, it's tough to really argue against, them pretty much being the hottest team in the NHL at this point.
Join us for the Nightcap with Lindsey Brown, Monday nights at 6 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
It's time to get out with the old and in with the... At Finley Chevrolet, we're receiving dozens of new 2020 Chevys daily, and we have huge incentives on the remaining 2019s in stock. Finley Chevrolet at the 215 in South Rainbow, Nevada's #1 Chevrolet volume dealer. Find new roads.
Don't go out to eat, go out to Eda at Chili's. Chicken or shrimp fajitas are now on 3 for $10. So hear that chicken sizzle.
Ooh, yummy.
Or that shrimp sizzle.
They sound so similar.
People laughing and having fun. Hey, Gary, maybe take it down a notch? It's a bit much.
Sorry.
Just kidding, Gary. Live your truth. Go out to Eda at Chili's for 3 for $10. That's a starter, fajita, and Coke, all for $10. Together, we Chili's. At participating restaurants only. Price may vary in Hawaii.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they're the right hire. Indeed will also give you this sticky frog, which will suddenly leap and stick to the face of the perfect hire. Okay, there's no sticky frog. But skills tests, that's a for sure.
See why independent research by Silk Road shows Indeed delivers 3 times more hires than any other job site. Visit Indeed.com/promo today and get a free sponsored job upgrade on your first posting. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply.
Saturday Sports Beat comes your way each week right here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 and on radio.com from 8 to 10 a.m. Hi, I'm Tony Cardasco. Join me as I provide insight, news, opinions, and updates on all the Las Vegas sports beats. The Raiders, Golden Knights, Rebels, Aviators, Lights, Aces, and much, much more. Plus the best guests in the business with their take on what's happening in the sports world. Saturday Sports Beat starting at 8 a.m. on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
CBS Sports Radio.
down the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Thanks to Austin Gayle from Pro Football Focus for joining us. Interesting conversation there around free agents and the Raiders' needs on primarily defense. And I'm glad, Kelly, he agreed with me on the fact that there's no true number one wide receiver that's going to be available in free agency, so the draft is the way to go. And we've known that. I keep hearing about how deep the draft is at wide receiver.
Yeah, the draft's deep at wide receiver, but is it number one deep? No, it's quality and depth deep, but not that prototypical X number one receiver.
Yes.
You've got two, maybe three, and that's it.
Yes, and speaking of quality, we go out on the Newsmaker line and we bring in our good friend, the senior NFL columnist at silverandblacktoday.com, also a great contributor over at Bleacher Report, and that is Mr. Moe Moton, and he joins us now from an undisclosed bunker in Brooklyn, right, Mo?
By the way, I like that segue. I gotta have you introduce me anytime I go to a public function. Your segues into introducing me are top-notch quality. But yes, unaffected here in New York City. Everyone out here, pretty much everyone out here is going about business as usual. Pretty much like the NFL out here. So
yeah, and we're getting increasing buzz about, of course, the NFL draft being postponed and canceled here in Las Vegas. No confirmation of that, but there's an increasing buzz around it, Mo. But let's jump into the reason we have you on. And, of course, everybody's tired of talking COVID-19, so we want to talk about linebackers. And this week up on the website, you wrote a story about 12 options that the Raiders could look at in both the draft and free agency to address the glaring need that they have at linebacker. But before we do that, we'll hit on just a couple of them because we can't go through all 12, obviously. But when you look at the position for the Raiders, talk about what it is in the NFL, just for folks out there. What kind of linebacker do you need today? Because it has changed over time.
Yeah, you definitely need guys who can cover. There are an increasing number of pass-catching tight ends, and now running backs are expected to catch and run out of the backfield. So to combat that, you need guys who can cover the middle of the field, sideline to sideline, shadow tight ends, or at least reroute them so it makes it difficult for them to get in their lanes and catch footballs. And the Raiders just simply don't have that. Markel Lee, I remember Markel Lee came out in 2017, and Raiders fans went crazy over Markel Lee. I don't know if that's the Reggie McKenzie effect, but I warn people he's not a guy who's going to cover the middle of the field if you need somebody to combat Travis Kelce or Hunter Henry. It's just not going to happen with him. And he's played sparingly. I had high hopes for Nicholas Morrow, but apparently he's still in those developmental stages. He's probably going to be just an average starter if he is a starter. And the Raiders need to just influx that position with quality talent.
Yeah, no, there's no question that that they need that influx of talent, Mo. But when we look at some of the guys that you mentioned, and we talked just a moment ago with Austin Gayle about Corey Littleton, you look at him, and of course, he's going to be at the top of everyone's list because of the athleticism that he has and the talent that he has and the ability to disrupt offenses. Corey Littleton, if they were able to get him, talk about how that would remake that linebacking core, what it would mean for the Raiders defense.
Well, I'm sure Kelly knows this, but I just, first of all, Corey Littleton is about 228 pounds. So let's just put that out there. That's not really a Gunther-type linebacker, but if the Raiders were to sign him and the Raiders were to grab him, I think he's the type that I just talked about. He can cover the middle of the field. I know some people said, well, he allowed 71.8% completion percentage. You got to understand, he's a linebacker. He's not a cornerback. He's not a free safety. So he's gonna let up some catches, but he was targeted 85 times last year, like those 61 completions. And I think he didn't leave any open gashes in the middle of the field. He's not the perfect cover linebacker. I think Joe Schobert is more of that. But Corey Littleton, if he's kept clean, if you have a strong defensive line, he can run sideline to sideline, stop the run, and as I said, he can pick up some passes. He has some impact plays and coverage. He has 5 interceptions in the last 2 years. I believe 22 passes broken up also in coverage. So I think he fits the bill if you want a guy who can cover in the middle of the field.
I agree with Mo 100% that Corey Littleton's not the typical guy that Gunther looks for, because Corey Littleton's good at football. Corey Littleton's built for today's game, which is the exact opposite of everything Gunther looks for in football. And speaking of that, you mentioned in your article, Mo, that Nick Vigil is from Cincinnati, familiar with Gunther's system, blah, blah, all that stuff. Cincinnati's linebacking core was as bad as the Raiders, and Cincinnati doesn't want him. Why would the Raiders want Nick Vigil?
Is that you bring up a good point, and you just said it. I don't want to diss Gunther and say he brings bad football players to Oakland or Las Vegas now, but you got to understand that Gunther, what he's done since he's been there, the Raiders have brought linebackers who know his system. And I don't know if you probably don't remember Emmanuel Lamore. Montez Burfict last year, of course. I think the Raiders are going to do that for the third consecutive year, just going to bring over a linebacker that they pretty much know is familiar with Gunther's system to help younger guys up to speed and to basically be a starter for probably the short term. Again, I will say this about Nick Vigil. He did improve in the second half of the season. A lot of Bengals writers and fans point out that he improved after let go of Preston Brown. He was able to settle into one linebacker spot.
Again, we're speaking with Moe Moton, senior NFL columnist at silverandblacktoday.com, about his piece this week about the Raiders linebacker core. Make sure you go up there and read it, silverandblacktoday.com. Follow Mo at MOEMOTON on Twitter. And Mo, we get into the college players and draft day one targets that you had listed. Of course, we've heard a lot about Kenneth Murray. Both Kelly and I like Kenneth Murray and think that he would be a fine pick at number 12 even. But you have up there, too, Patrick Queen. Talk about Patrick Queen and the differences between him and Murray and why you like one or the other.
I think Patrick Queen has a little more production and pass coverage. I believe he has 5 pass breakups and I believe an interception or 2. But Kenneth Murray is kind of like you would hope that his athleticism projects in the NFL where he can have more production and coverage. I think Patrick Queen has showed in a short period, albeit. I know he just took over a starting spot last year. But I think he's more. I think he can dart around the field a little more than a Kenneth Murray. If you look at Kenneth Murray's physique, he's chiseled. Doesn't mean he can't move around the field, but he's a chiseled guy, and I think he fit more as a middle linebacker. Whereas Patrick Queen, you can have him on the weak side. He can kind of start from sideline to sideline, stop the run, shout out tight ends. I think he's more athletic than Murray, slightly more athletic. Of course, they both ran a pretty good 4.5. Of course, they both tweaked their hamstrings, but I think Patrick Queen, if you're looking at ceiling, I think he has a higher ceiling than Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray, you kind of know what he is because he's been a starter for Oklahoma for 2 years, whereas Patrick Queen doesn't have that experience, but again, I think he has that upside.
Yeah, you mentioned it, Mo. Patrick Queen is a little more athletic, and he's more of a side-to-side to where, to me, Murray's more of a north and south kind of guy. But I also think that Murray is a prototypical middle linebacker, which is a lot harder to fill than a Sam or a Will linebacker. I think in the draft, you can get a better production for your outside linebackers in your middle, which is why I have Murray a little higher than Queen. Do you agree?
I agree with your assessment there. The one thing I will say is Corey Littleton, and I just did this research yesterday or last night, Corey Littleton's going to have a massive market. I just don't see the Raiders grabbing him between the market he has and between what Gunther looks for. I think the Raiders are more likely to grab a middle linebacker. What I'm worried about is if the Raiders grab a Joe Schobert and then they move Kenneth Murray to the weak side. I don't like that combination. Just like you, I would prefer Kenneth Murray to be a north-south guy in the middle of your defense.
Right, and I mean, look what happened last year. They moved Clelin Ferrell around, right, and played him out of position, and we've seen a lot of that due to the fact that they don't have talent. They've been moving guys around and not playing them in their natural position. Mo, with about 45 seconds left, Troy Dye out of Oregon as a draft day 2 target. That one intrigues me. I've watched the kid a couple times, and for a second day guy, which, you know, most of those guys, not many of them stick, but if you're going to take a flyer on a guy, you talk about athleticism and speed, he's sort of in that realm of that kind of new form of linebacker, is he not? Definitely. He's that guy. I mean,
6'4", 226 pounds. I believe 5 interceptions and 14 pass breakups in his career. A lot of people say, well, he got hurt in college, and I get that, but he's able to still play. Like, he was still on the field and still perform. I believe he played his bowl game with a broken thumb or a torn meniscus, had a surgery in his knee. So one of the underrated aspects of being able to play in the NFL is being able to play through pain, through injuries. And though he had some nicks, he still was able to get on the field and be athletic and show that side-to-side line athleticism on the field for Oregon. I think he'll be a great weak side linebacker for the Raiders, assuming they get a middle linebacker. Again, he's not a guy who's not going to be in the middle of your field because he's not big enough for that. But if you want a guy who can, again, cover tight ends, follow running backs, I think he's your guy.
All right, Moe Moton. And Mo, I know you have a story coming up tomorrow looking at free agent possibilities for the Raiders, correct?
Absolutely, and I think fans are going to be kind of disappointed in what I project, but this is more real than fantasy. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, realism. There's some people who don't want realism. If you write something that they don't like, then they think you're doing a terrible job. But we all know that, and Mo does not do a terrible job. He does an amazing job. Amazing writer. And always interactive with his readers. Moe Moton, senior NFL columnist at silverandblacktoday.com. And also you can catch his stuff on Bleacher Report. Mo, we'll talk to you next time, my friend.
All right, talk to you guys soon. Thanks for having me on.
All right,
Thanks,
that was Moe Moton. Always fun to talk to, Kelly. And I think overall, Mo's always got a very good, we don't always agree on everything with him, but overall I think with his linebacker story, pretty dang close.
Yeah, it was good, and it's funny I didn't get to say anything. I'm like, the Nick Kwiatkowski, he had him on there. I've been a big fan of his from West Virginia.
Yeah.
And I thought he was going to have a chance to do something. The second he went to Chicago, I knew he was going to get buried. So I think this is a guy you're going to get him really cheap. He's really got potential. He's somebody I would definitely target.
And that's the thing, especially at that position. I mean, there's the sexy names, and I get that, but there's also guys who can really significantly help them that aren't necessarily going to move that sexy meter, but they are going to move that defense in the right direction. All right, when we step aside for a moment, when we get back, it's time for Kelly's Corner. Last week was epic. I don't know that he can top it.
I can't.
Taysom Hill.
Not going to.
Awesome. Watch the video. But we will give it a shot. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
This is Mark Bedane, president of the Raiders. You're listening to Silver and Black Today.
All right, Mark Bedane brings us in. He's been a busy guy the last couple years, responsible for a lot of what is happening here in Las Vegas with the Raiders for Mark Davis, the owner. So nice to have him bring us back in, hear his voice. But the voice that we go to now is often the voice of reason in troubled times. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a bad reason, but there's a reason behind it.
But last week, Kelly's Corner, if you missed it, it's up on our YouTube channel because it was epic about Taysom Hill. And it was funny that people, Kelly, arguing that Taysom Hill could be a good quarterback and you don't know yet because he hasn't played. And it's sort of like,
Well, and
I
had a couple people that comments that were left. I wasn't attacking Taysom Hill for wanting to be a quarterback.
No.
I was attacking his coach for comparing him to a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
You know, if you want to keep Taysom Hill as I think he should just be a wide receiver. They need a number 2 wide receiver. I think Taysom Hill could be a great number 2 wide receiver.
Great hands.
You know,
absolutely.
But you're taking one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the league off the field for plays for a guy you don't trust to throw the ball.
That's right.
It's just stupid.
That's right. Well, now, though, we need to get you fired up and angry about something else. No, I'm not
Speaking of stupid.
Kelly's Corner, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
Yeah. I was kind of all set to just kind of go on a rant about all these people and this social distancing thing, but I'm tired of hearing about it, so I'm not going to do it. So I'm just going to sit here and make fun of Florida. Because if there's one thing you can always count on, it's someone or a large group of people in Florida doing something stupid and it making the news. Did you see what the Florida Senate did the other day, Scott?
I don't want to know. No,
Yeah.
What did they do?
Well, I mean, it's not like there's a big issue or some kind of pandemic going on that they need to work on. The Florida Senate took time out of their day to officially declare that the Florida State Seminoles are the national champions in college basketball.
What?
Yeah, a senator actually in the Florida Senate.
Wait a minute, basketball?
Yes.
What are they ranked?
They're 4.
Right.
Yeah.
How can you even? I mean, I think it's ridiculous that Kansas is claiming the national title, even though they're ranked number 1.
Well, here's part of what the resolution that they passed says. The Seminoles, ranked number 4 in national college basketball standings, ended the regular season with a 26-5 record and were favored to challenge the top seeds in the national tournament and take home the national title. Okay, so instead of, I don't know, spending time and doing something productive in a time of need in our country, a senator proposed this. It passed 37-2 in the Senate, which kind of makes me wonder how only 2 people from the Florida Senate went to Florida or Miami, because they're not going to vote for that, you know. But yeah, and it just reminded me of the whole UCF thing in college football, where, yeah, you went undefeated and you're claiming yourself national champions. Do you know who does that? Losers who don't win anything. You don't crown yourself anything, because if you do that, it's because no one else is doing it for you. You know, yeah. It just blows me. I mean, it's just dumb that one you're taking time, and that's a government body that's taking the stupid time to do something like this. You know, it's like we look at everything, you know, we talk about government waste and other properties. They took time out of their day. This guy spent time and resources to put this together and to put it to a vote on the floor. Like, what the hell are you doing?
I know, when you have all these other issues that you got to deal with in your state.
Yeah, and not only that, if I'm a Florida State player, I'm pissed to see this because it makes me look bad.
Right.
Because the only way I can win something is if the government gives it to me. It's like socialism all over again.
Well, and that's the same thing. I mean, with Florida State, they're number 4 in the country. So it's like the Kansas argument is terrible too, but at least they can say, hey, we're number 1. It ended. There's been no tournament. They try to compare it to college football, which it should not be compared, because at the time when you named the national championship based on the rankings, there was no tournament.
Yeah, there was no tournament. You also had 2. You had the AP and you had
Correct.
So you could have 2 champions.
Correct.
Which was even dumber than having one that you make up.
But in basketball, the precedent is you had a tournament. These extraordinary circumstances led to the cancellation of the tournament. So in my view, it's just vacated. Kansas is selling T-shirts. Right? People can't get toilet paper and paper towels. Selling T-shirts.
So did UCF. So did other schools. I don't blame them for that. If people are stupid, take their money.
That's a good point. It's a good point. But I agree. I mean, you can't it blows my mind what government can do sometimes and what people will spend their time on. You know, and we're talking
tax dollars went to do this,
right? And we're talking sports here at a time when there's bigger concerns, but that's a little bit of an escape. You know, when you're in government, you should be all hands on deck, trying to make sure that local agencies and everybody gets what they need, versus wasting your time on the most ridiculous argument I have ever heard for claiming a national title.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb. And it also, the whole Florida thing kind of segues into something else that I'm going to do here as a second part of my corner.
Part 2.
Well, yeah, it's because, Scott Van Pelt tweeted out yesterday that it's been 3 days we've had no live sports. Do you know how long those last 3 days felt? Think of what it's going to feel like 3 days later, 3 days after that. We're in for the long haul on this. So since I'm sitting here bashing Florida, there's a great documentary on Netflix right now that if you're a sports fan, I really recommend you watch that involves Florida. It's called Screwball, and it's about the Alex Rodriguez doctor who did all the anti-aging steroid stuff. And Billy Corbin, the guy that's the director, great director, does some great documentaries. But what makes this thing so good is, one, the story's ridiculous. Like, if you wrote this stuff out,
you wouldn't believe it.
You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But when he does all the reenactments, for some reason, he got the idea to have children do them. So he's got like 8 and 9-year-olds dressed up like all the like fake beards, like the tattoo sleeves and bald caps for some of the guys. I mean, it's just it's hilarious, but the story's so crazy. And you add that in. I mean, yeah, it's called Screwball. It's on Netflix. You know, since we have no sports to watch, definitely throw that on there. It is worth your hour and a half or hour and 45, however long it is. It's an excellent documentary.
Well, and it's funny because on the Playmakers, when I've appeared on the Playmakers with Lindsay and Paul, which runs 3 to 6 p.m. here on CBS Sports Radio 1140, Lindsay, because she's younger, she's in her 20s, and of course I just hit 50, she makes fun of the fact, because they do a segment called "What Are You Watching Tonight?" and almost every time I'm on there, I'm saying I'm watching this game from 1994, I'm watching this game from 2001, and she always makes fun of that. And now who's laughing? Because I have all those games that I can go back and watch. Okay, Kelly, give it to me.
No. I was going to say, I made the joke that ESPN Classics ratings are never going to be higher, and they're going to be in the... Because it was so, like, the UFC fight was live in Brazil yesterday, so you had that on TV.
With no spectators.
Yeah. There was nothing else on.
No.
So, I mean, it's like you were stuck.
Yeah.
So it's like, NFL Network's replaying NFL games. I mean, and everybody's going to be doing that. But there's only, like... I don't really want to watch Bills Dolphins from week 6 last year.
Exactly. Play classic.
There's only
games.
so much stuff that you can keep putting on there. So, eventually we're going to be making stuff up. I saw a great thing on Twitter to where a guy had a Roomba and he got a little Swiffer sweeper and sweeping in front of it like it was curling. And the first thing that popped into my head is like, is there an over-under? Can I take a side?
Well, for Raider fans, my recommendation, especially younger Raider fans, who are under 30 or under 40, go back. You can find most of them on YouTube and watch classic Raider games. I mean, from the 70s and the late 60s, we had Daryl LaMonica on last week. Watch some of his stuff that you can find. And some of those old NFL, that's what I would do, is look up on streaming. If you get NFL Network and some of the other, ESPN has got some of them, watch the old NFL film stuff, because that's fun to watch. It's whimsical. The Folly stuff that they used to do every year with the outtakes and all that is great as well, because we all have to fill that time. And you know what? God forbid, I might recommend, for right now, the libraries are open. Go get a book. Great books on sports to read, background, some great Raider books out there as well, too, Kelly. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds and how people get used to the new normal, even if it's 2 or 3 weeks long. Could be longer, I don't know. But if it's 2 or 3 weeks long without all these sports, then they got to all start back up again.
Yeah, and everybody keeps throwing out this 2-week thing. Like, oh, just stay in your house for 2 weeks. The world's going to be safe. This is going to be around for a long time.
Sure.
Sports aren't coming back in 2 weeks, people. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but they're not going to completely halt the season of the NBA in the middle of a game and then be like 2 weeks later, we're good. No, we can come back. This is going to be a while. There's going to be a lot of downtime. This is going to get ugly for people.
Well, it is, and I've said, and I think I forgot, I would credit them because it wasn't my original thought. Someone else I saw on Twitter, a reporter with ESPN, said, it's probably safe to bet that we may not see sports until the NFL season, which could be August or September. Now, that spells doom for a lot of people who love baseball.
Well, I was going to say, but after March Madness, there are no real sports till football anyway. So
well, I still love baseball. In fact, our Little League season has been postponed. My son's Little League season, which is kind of a bummer, but I totally get it. I've expected that, even though here in Clark County in Las Vegas, they have not canceled schools yet. But I think that could very well, it's going to get bad the next 2 weeks. That's why I use 2 weeks. But past that, we'll see. But we very well could not see any live sporting events until mid-August. I'm not saying it's going to happen. By the way, ESPN reporting that the Titans are not interested in Tom Brady. They're working hard to get a deal done with Ryan Tannehill. So we don't know that the NFL New Year is going to be delayed, but there's certain things in motion. People are going.
Well, the Titans just know that Tom Brady's coming to Las Vegas apparently, so they can't, they can't.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. You're starting it now.
I'm so sick of hearing that too.
I know.
God,
but that's what I'm seeing a lot of our chatters on YouTube as well, where we broadcast live our video stream of this show. They're saying, just get the Brady stuff over already. Number one, because people are sick of it. But number two, it's the kind of the first domino that kind of needs to go. But I think it might be the last thing that happens.
I was going to say, it's like if everybody's waiting on that, you might be waiting a while.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to be in any hurry.
Because I don't think, I honestly think there's a little bit of skepticism the Patriots don't want him back.
Yeah.
And they might just be like, hold this thing off so everybody else does something. He has nowhere to go.
Right. Yeah, there's only a couple options, so it'll be interesting.
I actually hope he goes to, because there's Tampa Bay's all in. I hope he does that so I can bet against Tampa every week.
Yeah.
Because in that offense, Tom Brady's useless.
Well, we have a place to go, and that's to a break. Kelly's Corner. Kelly, as always, thank you. Thought-provoking.
Yeah,
introspective.
Florida, you're dumb.
We're going to step aside. When we come back, we'll close out the show. You could call in. You want to call in and sound off about no sports? 702-889-5978. Don't be afraid. Call us. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
With you is with the radio.com app. Download it today and search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
That's right. The radio.com app, if you don't have it, we have a lot of viewers on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope who watch the show and listen that way. But if you aren't and you're listening, you got to get the radio.com app, folks. This app, you can get anything you want, music, sports, talk, and you could use the rewind feature. If you missed the beginning of the show and you're just tuning in at the end of the show, you can actually rewind right at the bottom of the app there and listen to it like you were listening. It's like a DVR for this radio show and for all radio shows here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas. Also, we have this show up, i.e. on a podcast feed within 30 minutes after the show ends. So if you missed the show or if you want to pass it along to somebody, that feed is usually up. And it is usually by afternoon in all channels, Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you listen to your audio, you'll be able to get the show. So make sure you subscribe there. Leave us some positive reviews on iTunes. I had a guy from the Syracuse Raiders fan group write a really negative review of us on iTunes. And I'm fine with negative reviews. You know, some people like us, some people don't. It's totally cool. But it was kind of funny because, those groups are really fun. I'm wearing a Rochester Raiders fan group shirt today. They sent it to me last year, and thank you for them for doing that. But, most of those groups and stuff, they get along with each other. We all kind of communicate. We all partake with them. I communicate with a lot of folks from different clubs all over the country and all over the world. So it was kind of surprising. But, hey, man, we're not for everybody.
What was the
As my wife always
what
tells
was
me.
the genesis of the negative review? What didn't he like?
That basically we don't know what we're talking about and that we're not fans. We're not real fans. So,
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm not on here to say everything. I'm not going to blow smoke up your butt and tell you everything's great like most of his fan site does.
No, and
if everything was great, we'd have a better record.
Well, and not only that, Kelly, but we love fan podcasts. We have fan podcasters on here all the time. We have Cody on. By the way, shout out to Raider Cody. His daughter was in the hospital, so I want to give him just to let him know that we're thinking about him. But there's a lot of fan shows, podcasts, and all that. And we like those guys. There's nothing wrong with it. That's not what we are. So listen to your fan podcast and then listen to us. We're going to be a little more center, and you'll hear positives and negatives. We try to be objective. So all good though. But it's interesting to know what Raider Nation is always thinking about, and we are not going to see a lot of activity in the sports world as we talked about in the last segment, Kelly. But I hope with football, I hope that they don't delay the new year and that they can at least they can do things virtually. I know you have in-person visits and stuff like that. These guys are traveling for the most part. I'm not talking about low-level free agents. I'm talking about the guys like Tom Brady at the top. Those guys are flying on private jets anyway. Now you have team officials and all that stuff. So we'll see how they handle it. But I'm just one of those people. I'm going to go on a rant for a second. You can't stop life. You can't stop business overall. Be careful. Be prudent. If you can work from home, great. That's great. That's awesome. But there are a lot of people who don't work from home. There are a lot of people who have to do things that take them into the public space, like the people who restock your grocery shelves so you can then run on toilet paper. Those people have to work. So society's not going to stop. Let's just all be really careful. And the football shouldn't stop either. You're talking about business. They're not on the field. They're not in stadiums full of 65,000 people. Am I wrong on this?
No, and that's what, like you mentioned, the private jet stuff like that, but also that every NFL player, almost every NFL player that's a free agent has been to that city or whatever. It's not like you're signing blind somewhere and be like, oh man, wait, Indianapolis this is what Indianapolis is? Or, oh wait, you mean Cleveland doesn't have sunny weather? It's like, you know exactly what you're getting into for the most part,
right?
Because you see that product every Sunday, enough. Your agent's got guys on that team. So it's not, you don't have, that sales pitch is great when you're showing a guy around, you can do stuff there, but your pitch is your team, your pitch is your organization, and they already know all of that stuff. And let's be honest, man, if you can fax over something to somebody, they can sign it and fax it back. That's all you need to sign a free agent.
No, you can DocuSign now online. I mean, I bought my house. I never saw a piece of paper until at the end when they gave me the stack. but I signed it all online. It's all digital signature. So, but even
the whole fax thing, you know how the NFL likes their faxes.
They have the 32 faxes remaining in the world. But so that's one of the things that we think it's just, we have to have things go on in life. I'm not saying don't be concerned. We're all concerned. But don't put your entire life on hold. And by the way, there's small business people out there who are going to go under and lose their livelihood. So don't stop going to these businesses. Just wash your hands, dude. Don't cough on people. Be careful. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The fact that I have small guys at home, and I remind them to wash their hands. The fact that we have to remind adult people to wash their hands, but for most men who go into the men's room on a regular basis to use them in public places, you know that a lot of men don't wash their hands. Hopefully that's the good that comes out of this, right?
Well, I was unaware that I needed to sing Happy Birthday twice while washing my hands. I thought it was just the once.
See, being Catholic, we say Hail Marys. Because then you get prayers and your hands washed at the same time. Dude, 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah, knock them out while you can. But no, you mentioned like the league year. I don't want the draft to get pushed back. And I think it's actually bad for teams if you do that. Because the one thing that gets you more than anything when it comes to draft time is overthinking everything.
Right.
And if you have another 3 or 4 weeks to look over film on something that you've done 1,000 times, man, it's paralysis by analysis. By this time, everybody should know what they're doing.
Right.
You give them extra time, it's just going to screw everybody up. They're going to overthink everything. And then some genius is going to convince themselves that Jalen Hurts is a first-round quarterback and trade up to 25.
Yeah, trade news. Adam Schefter reported Jaguars and Ravens have agreed to trade in principle what's in Pro Bowl defensive end Calais Campbell to the Baltimore for a 2020 fifth-round pick. Wow, that's a good trade.
God, why wasn't the Raiders in on something like that?
I don't know.
I'll give up one of our 3/3 right now for Calais Campbell.
I know, and they gave up a fifth.
They gave up a fifth.
That's like nothing.
Yeah,
it's literally nothing.
Because you've got Jacksonville, who's in cap hell. They've got to get rid of people. He was probably going to get cut. Just throw a late round pick. Throw a late round. I hate to say it. That's why Baltimore's such a good organization. That's the one thing the Patriots get that nobody else gets. 5th and 6th round draft picks are basically meaningless in a draft for the most part.
Right.
They just got Calais Campbell for nothing.
No, they did, and it's amazing. That's a great move for them. That, according to Adam Schefter. Also, we're getting more indications and hearing from some people who work in the industry in Las Vegas that hotels have been notified that the draft will be canceled. I think we already know that it's not going to be what it was. Even if they were to hold the draft in Las Vegas, it was not going to be a spectator thing. So we kind of already know that, and so we're hearing that increasingly. I got a couple text messages from folks who work on the Strip, and they're telling me that they're executives on the Strip. So
I've got the same thing 3 or 4 days ago to where everybody knows that the whole big fan experience stuff was gone. I mean that was gone a week ago. Everybody knew that basically, but it's just the fact that they're not going to just come out here for the regular draft. So the draft, they haven't officially said it. The draft's not in Las Vegas.
Right. All right, Kelly. Well, we're out of time, man. It was good to like I said, have this respite, talk football instead of all of the other stuff. But next week we'll be back with another show. Hopefully Chaz will be back. If he makes bail, we'll get him here.
Well, I told him I wouldn't do it again, so it's your turn.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Well, Kelly, as always, thanks for being here, brother.
Yeah.
And thanks to our engineer, Trent Ogle, for also being here and for washing his hands in sense of – no, just kidding.
Wait, are we sure he did? Because he just came back in the studio, so we have no idea.
I'm hoping he did. There's so much stuff around here I can't
No. It's not just the hand sanitizer. You actually have to wash your hands, then use the hand sanitizer.
All right, guys. Well, listen, we will be back with you next week. Check out silverandblacktoday.com. Also, look for this show on your podcast feed. We'll be back next week, and may the autumn wind always be at your back. And take care of everybody out there, especially those that are elderly. We'll talk to you next week. Take care, everybody.